What's up fellas, Pachol of Moss Studios here and welcome to the Moss Studios microterrarium setup. These are the items you'll be expecting from your kit, so feel free to pause the video to check these items out. So let's begin with placing the felt pads. At the bottom of your concrete base, I pre-marked the bottom so you can get an exact and clean look with your felt pads. So as you can see in the rest of the scenes, I'm just taking out the protective layer so that it can expose the sticky side, and then I'm just simply sticking them to the bottom of the concrete base. So now think of this next step as a little life hack. Just simply place the bottom of your dish on top of the existing felt pads so that you can get a uniform placement for the next three, giving you that clean and seamless look. Alright guys, now that that's out of the way, it's finally time to start the setup of your terrarium. First you want to take out your soil packet and place it on half of the dish because this is where we'll be placing your moss. Now do take note that your moss can only survive and be planted in this soil, and the other soil packet will be used as a home for your isopods. Now do take note that we'll want to cover only 1/3 of the height of your dish so that your isopods will have a lower chance of escaping by reaching the top. Alright guys, so in the scene, you could see that I made a wall out of the soil packet. That's because we want to create a wall so that we can separate the cocopeat from this soil side where the mosses are, just so that it gives off a cleaner and neater look. Alright guys, so the next step here is to just spray it until it gets muddy and sticky because that's the time you can mold the soil into the shape that you want. So what I mean by that is the shape of the wall that you just created. I personally am a function person, so I just made it look so basic, but what you guys can do is make like an S shape or a more natural curved shape so that you can get that more natural finish to your terrarium. So as a general rule here, you want to make the height of your wall just about half of your terrarium so that you get a better separation of both soils. So now you want to take your cocopeat packet and just simply rip it open, and then you just want to pour the contents on it and exactly half of the other side of your terrarium. So this cocopeat packet serves as the home of your isopods, so generally you want to keep it moist and fluffy so that they can burrow under it. By the way guys, for your cocopeat side, try not to overwater it because sometimes your isopod, they just want to have the right amount of moisture in the medium that they're staying in. Alright guys, finally it's now time for the moss. We highly recommend that you break the mosses apart so that you can get that exact look that you want for it and not just place the whole chunk in one patch. Now it's very important for the mosses to establish themselves in your soil, so how we're going to do this is to kind of overwater your soil until it gets muddy and sticky, because this will help your mosses establish themselves better. So make sure you press it firmly and don't be afraid to do so because they can handle a surprising amount of pressure. Alright guys, so you've seen me cut this tall piece of moss, and you generally want to do that with all of the other tall mosses in your terrarium because they're simply too tall to fit in your terrarium. Now if you guys really want to place some mosses on the other side where the cocopeat is, you'll simply want to make a hole for it and sprinkle a little soil at the bottom and moisten it up and tap it until it's sticky, and that's when you'll want to place your moss on top of it. Make sure that you spray the bottom of your moss too so that it can stick better. So you can see here that I dug around the edges. This is where we'll be placing more soil around it. So just do the same procedure of making it sticky and then cover it up with some more cocopeat. So as you saw here previously, I had another tall piece of moss. I just trimmed the excess at the bottom and used my tweezers to dig a hole in the soil. I then placed a thin layer of soil at the bottom and made it sticky too. I just did the same procedure with the previous one that we just finished doing, and you'll want to do this with all your tall mosses in general. Now for taller mosses like these, I like to use the bent tweezers to firmly grasp the moss from its sides and press it down firmly to the patch of mud. We do this so that we can avoid deforming the moss if we press it from its top. Now for the edges, I use the end of the tweezers as a precise scoop for the soil and place the exact amount on the edges. I then sprayed the soil to lock the moss in place. Now we just did the same steps for this patch of moss, and I decided to place it on the other side too, so I just simply made a hole on the cocopeat and used the end of the tweezer as a scoop and did the same process that we did for the last two. So when placing more soil on the edges of the moss, you generally want to spray it until it gets sticky, and the most important part is when you press it down with your finger so that it gives it a more compact soil. Because compact soil is the soil that mosses need so that they can survive. Alright fellas, so we're halfway done with setting up your terrarium. Grab the brown envelope from your kit and the gemstones that you've selected are found here. So let's begin with the rocks. It's very important that you always check if your terrarium can fully close as you place each of your stones. You can do this by placing the cover on top every time you finish placing a piece just to see if it fits. Alright guys, as for the wood, to achieve that shattered forest finish, we grab the cutter and simply cut the large piece of wood in half. That's the main reason why we provide large chunks of aged wood, is so that you can create any possible shape that you want from it by carving them. By the way, you'll want to have a large chunk by the way so that your isopods can hang around here because this serves as their home. Now for the gemstones, our rule of thumb is to space everything apart to give it a clean and aesthetic look. So our general rule of thumb when decorating your terrarium is that less is more, because giving it a more simple look allows you to see more of your terrarium and you can observe your isopods even more. Alright guys, so we're just finishing off the terrarium. We're placing the remaining mosses using our tweezers. Especially in those finer corners, these tweezers help a lot. Alright guys, you can see here, we're just finally finishing off the terrarium by placing the remaining wood chunks so that it gives off that spiky wooden forest finish, just like you see in the photos on our Instagram page. By the way guys, don't forget to make the edges of your terrarium lower so that your isopods cannot escape. Alright guys, we're almost done here. We're finally gonna clean up your terrarium, so just simply fold up a piece of paper and wet it with your spray bottle. Now you'll want to fold it up and place it on the edges of your terrarium and use your tweezer to simply wipe off the edges cleanly. This is actually my favorite step guys, because you can satisfyingly see how clean it gets just after one swipe of that moistened tissue paper. Okay guys, so once everything is finally done, it's time to grab your isopods and simply place them on your terrarium and then close it up. Guys, we're finally done with setting up your terrarium, and all that's left to do from here is to wait for your isopods to settle in. First, you'll notice your isopods keep on trying to escape, and that's normal because they're not yet established in their home. As you saw in this next clip, they're just chilling around, and that's because they have now established themselves in their new home. It doesn't take that long, but anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you found everything you needed in this tutorial to make your dream terrarium. This is Pacholo Manialak of Moss Studios, and I'll see you guys in the next video.